Hi everyone, I'm Amelia, I work with EVCOM, and welcome to our third and final Skillshare of Wednesday's programme. We are finishing with a live interview with the wonderful Kevin Hosier from GCN Talent, and he's going to be shedding some light on the skills gaps and recruitment challenges that have emerged as a result of the impact of COVID-19. So very excited to have him here. I'm just going to add him to the video now. There we go. So just a bit about Kevin. He's been involved with the conference and exhibition sector since 1994, working in content production and management with a variety of companies. Hi, Kevin, how are you?
Hi, Amelia. Very well. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Good. I was just giving you your intro.
Oh, good. Excellent. All true.
Fab. So yeah, he had his own recruitment business serving the industry in 2001, and then co-founded GCN Talent with the Global Conference Network. And he's been co-director of GCN Talent for over 5 years, working alongside fellow director Catherine Mann to deliver senior level talent to the B2B live events and industries. So yeah, very excited to have him here to be talking to us today about recruitment challenges and skills gaps, particularly given the current situation. So yeah, welcome.
Hi, nice to be here.
So I've got some questions ready. So to start off with, let's talk a bit about the impact of COVID-19 on the sector. So I just wanted to ask you, I know you've been doing a lot of research into this. How severe has the impact of COVID-19 been for employees in the B2B event sector?
Well, yeah, unfortunately, it's been pretty devastating for the B2B event sector with cancellations, obviously, from quite early on in the year. We think, certainly from our client base, most of our clients have furloughed at least 25% of their staff, some up to 40%. And unfortunately, the people who remain, of course, are doing the jobs of 2 or 3 people often. And we haven't heard a huge amount, but we've certainly had reports of people being under pressure, and sort of mental health and well-being, I think, is probably suffering as a result. We've seen a wave of redundancies already from some of the bigger companies. The exhibition-led companies in particular have been very vulnerable in this respect. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, I think we're going to see a bit of a second wave as the furlough scheme winds down.
Completely, yeah. It's a difficult situation we're all in at the moment.
It is, yeah, unfortunately.
Completely. And in terms of the sort of B2B event companies, how are they reacting to the crisis? What are they doing?
Well, I mean, yeah, nobody will be surprised to hear that there's been a desperate scramble to move everything online, and this is really in order to shore up revenues and try and keep hold of the cash that you've got that has come in from customers who've already committed to you. Some companies are seeing this, or some people are seeing this as a knee-jerk reaction, and a means of survival, really, until live events can actually return. In certain sectors, I think it's very hard to convince vendors and sponsors of value in anything other than live events. But others equally would say that the shift to digital events is here to stay. It's a permanent thing, and that we're likely to see some sort of virtual offering in B2B events going forward. But at the moment, as far as we can tell, there's a good deal of frustration and confusion around the technology that's available, and the business model as well, really, because I think for a lot of companies, especially the conference companies, it's tempting to simply take an existing physical event and plonk it online, and that's proving to not be sufficient, really, in most markets. And certainly amongst the people that we've spoken to, nobody's got a really good handle on how to commercialize the whole thing, how to make any money, frankly.
Yeah, it's a whole new learning curve, isn't it, for everyone?
Yeah, if indeed it's possible at all. I mean, some people would say, well, it's just not possible. There's no margin in these events, and we can't do it.
Yes, we shall see what the next 6 months hold, I suppose, won't we? And so, what do you think the implications are for those that are, continuing to work in the sector and hope to continue working in the sector despite all the impact of COVID-19?
Yeah, well, it's a good question. I think we've been speaking to clients quite a lot recently because sadly there's not much business around for us at the moment. So we're spending our time talking to our clients, trying to understand what it is that they're going through. And I think that the function that seems to have been hit hardest in terms of adapting is the sales function. And whilst most companies have probably been successful in holding on to existing order books as they pivot to digital, which is the phrase we're all using at the moment, I think everybody's really struggling to drive new business in this scenario from new sponsors, new clients. And I think that's because often the virtual event offering is really completely untested and untried for a lot of companies. So it's got few certainties. There are very few guarantees that people can offer their clients. And I think articulating the value of a virtual event to your customer base is actually pretty hard. And I think for sales people who want to be successful in this environment, they're going to have to learn quickly how to do that, really. And they're also going to need to develop a pretty quick understanding of the technical platforms that are available, what they can offer, and what it's possible to deliver for a client through those technical platforms. For example, there are definite advantages in the online model around data capture, around analytics, and if sales staff can really understand the positives in those and how they can be converted into value for clients, then I think you're starting to win the battle there. We think that probably sales staff that are used to a more transactional approach to sales will struggle. It really needs to be properly consultative. And unfortunately, we've seen already a reasonably significant wave of redundancies in the delegate sales function. So that's the ticket sales function, basically, in B2B events, because a lot of our clients, slightly in panic mode, are moving towards the free to attend model. So it's sponsor led. Delegates aren't paying for the most part, so that delegate sales function becomes redundant, and we're not certain at this stage whether it will recover really, or when it will recover. But having said that, it's not all doom and gloom, I don't think. And there's definitely the opinion out there that some event companies have cut far too fast and that they've cut far too deep. And we've seen this before. The event industry tends to be quite cyclical in that respect, and it responds very quickly to economic downturns, in that companies cut hard and they cut fast, and then they remember, actually, when things pick up again, we've got to actually put on some events, and then a hiring process starts again. So, whilst we've never faced anything on quite this scale ever before, we do know that live events have a propensity to endure. It's just that the bounce back might take a little bit longer this time.
Completely. There's hope there, though. I feel like there's hope.
There's always hope.
There's always hope. And so looking at kind of the functions beyond sales, are you seeing any specific skills gaps, and any advice on what candidates can do to prepare for the new normal in event delivery as they're going for jobs in the future?
Yes. I mean, if we assume that there's going to be a permanent shift towards sort of hybrid live stroke online events, and there's always going to be some sort of virtual offering, companies are going to need to decide who's going to own that technology piece internally. And that's, for the larger companies who've got significant technical departments, that's possibly not so much of an issue, but certainly a lot of our clients are SMEs. They wouldn't have big IT or technical support functions, and in that instance, the responsibility for the technology piece seems to be falling to the operations professionals. Of course, these are generally, whilst they certainly won't be technical Luddites, they'll generally be more used to dealing with technology when it comes to putting on live events than on virtual events. So I think for for the operations professional looking to endure in the industry, getting up to speed with the tech platforms out there, understanding how they work, that would probably pay dividends. For the content production function, so these are the people who actually create, research and create content for B2B events. We think the challenge is probably less in the development of compelling online content, because the research of content and what is compelling is the same, really, whether you're delivering it live or delivering it online. But what is important for content people to get their heads around is experimentation in format and audience engagement, because that is a lot harder in the online space than it is in the live space. And as I said, a lot of companies are finding it difficult to move beyond the webinar at the moment, or just sort of the replication almost of the live event in the online environment. And there's not, as far as we know, or we're not seeing a huge amount of innovation in audience engagement and sort of participation, that sort of thing, and interaction. So we think that the responsibility for that will probably fall to the content people who are creating the format for the events. So again, it's about understanding what the technology can do for you, and how you can harness that to best enhance the audience experience, really. We've spoken to our clients as well about the marketing function, and again, it comes back to the technical piece. Marketers are going to do well to develop their data tools, knowledge, and their technical knowledge, because we think that analytics is going to play a major part in demonstrating success of events. Already said, for the sales function, important that they can demonstrate success and value for their customers. And it can be really challenging unless you're using one sort of discrete platform. I think a lot of companies are using a lot of third-party technology in their live event delivery, and it's really hard in that scenario to analyze everything across the whole event, basically, and come out with a complete picture. You might know what's going on in part of the event, but not the whole thing. So the better marketers can get at delivering a complete picture of what the event is delivering, the easier it will be to sell value in the future, basically. And I think also, given the fact that there's a lot of stuff out there at the moment, a lot of events, a lot of noise, it's very crowded. Marketers are going to have to think carefully about data segmentation, something we all, I think, pay a bit of lip service to in the industry, but the better we get at data segmentation and not saturating our databases, the better it's going to be for everybody, and the more successful we'll be.
Yeah, fantastic. Some really, really useful tips there. Thank you. I'm sure anyone on the journey looking for new jobs at the moment will really appreciate that. So to finish, let's look to the future. And what do you think, all the work you're doing, what do you think the future holds for the B2B event sector?
Sure. Well, I suppose there's my opinion, and there's the research that we've done with our clients, and I think there's a range of opinion out there, really. I think it's clear that certain parts of the industry have been hit really hard and will probably continue to be hit really hard. I think we're going to see increasing redundancies, as I said, as the furlough schemes wind down. I think the exhibition companies in particular are going to struggle to commercialise any new virtual offering. I mean, even if the technology, which it does, I mean, the technology exists to move exhibitions online, but whether that is really going to be something people will pay for, I think remains to be seen. I think the general feeling amongst our client base seems to be that there won't be any physical events this year. I think, well, we've had a couple who are active in Eastern Europe and Asia, more than the UK or Western Europe, who've said that they are hoping to get events out in those geographies. But I think in general, most are predicting some sort of return of live events in Q1 next year, some even as late as next summer.
Wow.
So there's a bit of a range there, but I would say in general we think probably 2021 for live events. Companies that are offering content-led events who manage to solve the online interaction and networking challenge that I was talking about, they'll probably fare better. So those are the sort of the conference and content-led companies more than the expo companies. And within that sort of subset of company, those that can offer the one-to-one or the round table style forums where they're bringing buyers and sellers together, either one-to-one or one to several, I suppose, in the round table format. We think they'll probably fare best of all because that's commercializable, if that's a word. Monetizable is a better word than commercializable. And it's an easier model to bring online, basically, than pure content delivery, which has its challenges for sure. And we've also heard from clients who are having good success with online training. So that seems to be an area that the people are having success with at the moment. So I think I'd say that in general, the majority of our clients think that hybrid model is here to stay, that live stroke online event model is here to stay. But there's a pretty vocal minority who would say that as soon as this is all over, if that's possible, and things return to normal, whatever that is, that we'll just revert straight back to the live event as we know it, really. So in trying to sort of pull all that together, I was thinking that assuming that restrictions are lifted completely at some point in the future, I think the future shape of the industry is probably going to be determined in some ways by industry sector. So it's going to depend for the organisers which industry sector they serve, and what the client demand in that industry sector is. Because I know, because I've spoken to clients in certain sectors, that the virtual event model just isn't going to wash for them. So you'd expect in that sector, as soon as it's possible to go back to live events, then people will straight away. But in other sectors where there's been a good response to the virtual event model, then we'll see probably that hybrid model will evolve further. I had one client say to me that he's anticipating revenge participation in live events, which mirrors I think it was the revenge shopping in Wuhan when restrictions were lifted. Everybody went out and shopped. I think they posted their biggest ever day of offline sales in Wuhan on that day. So this particular client was saying he's absolutely convinced that this is going to happen in live events, and he wants to make sure that his company is there to take advantage when it happens. So he's setting himself up, and he's actually one of the clients who predicted a return to live events this year as well. So I'll be checking in to see how he gets on. But I think overall, my personal opinion is that it'll be a mixed picture in terms of the way that the shape of the industry, based on the sectors that our clients serve. But I think if there is one more, I want to end on a positive note. If there is one more positive to take out of this, I think the whole sector, the whole live event, certainly in the B2B event sector, we've been put into a position where we have to innovate. You can't just take a live event and plonk it online and expect to be successful. So there's got to be innovation in format, and there's a definite, or there has been for some time, a definite opinion that the B2B event industry has been stuck in a bit of a rut, really, because there hasn't been innovation with formats or interaction or any of that, and technology has helped. But somebody said to me, really, has it changed since 1974 what we do? And which, well, that's a bit, yes, I think it probably has. But that was from a managing director of a large organisation. So her opinion was worth listening to. But I think if we can hold on to that innovation, learn from it, and continue to innovate, having been forced to, then we could end up in a better place, actually.
I think you're absolutely right. I think we're seeing so much creativity and innovation at the moment, and we're lucky to be in an industry full of creative people, creative thinkers, and so hopefully very very promising um, for the future.
Yeah, it's an industry that attracts smart, creative people. So it's time for them to step up and get us through it.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much. That was a really really interesting session, and yes, I certainly learned a lot. And I'm sure everyone who joined us did too. And that'll be available on our website soon as well, and on our YouTube, and also on our IGTV. And we've got a couple more sessions tomorrow, so please do tune in then. But yeah, thank you so much, Kevin, and thank you
You
to
are,
everyone who tuned in. And have a lovely evening.
and you. Bye.